This is We Bleed Orange and Black, the podcast for Halloween and horror lovers. Join us as we interview creatives, discuss our favorite horrors, and share original spooky stories. This week, we're putting up our spooks with part 2 of Fangsgiving. I'm Jeff C. Carter, and I'm repping the 80s.
I'm Ryan Gerasi, and I'm repping the 90s.
All right, Fangsgiving part 2, let's get into it. That means...
Did we do a Thanksgiving part 1? Was that the Corey Haim episode?
Yeah.
Was it at Thanksgiving last year?
Yep.
Holy shit.
We are once again exploring...
Our spirit animal, Big Wolf on Campus.
Big Wolf on Campus.
So, to follow up the delightful Corey Haim episode of Big Wolf on Campus... Oh, side bag quickly. The theme song for this is... maybe you could play a little snippet of it again.
I used to own this town. Now it's all turned upside down.
But it's like, I used to own this town.
Yeah.
Now it's all turned upside down.
Yeah.
Except that I'm still the super popular jock that everyone loves and the best kid in school. And I'm winning every yearbook best of, as we can see.
Tommy, the titular Big Wolf on Campus, really is like an alpha male Chad. And Big Wolf on Campus is the show that is brave enough to tackle the question of what happened if a super good-looking popular jock also became a super-powered werewolf.
Who can completely control himself at all times.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's graduation time, and they're all trying on their robes. Tommy, as noted, is best everything. Best smile, best eyes, best haircut, best buns, best sense of humor. Merton is jealous of all of it because he knows he's got the best sense of humor with his crack timing and has also got the best buns with his crack buns. Cut straight to Corey Feldman rolling into town in his limousine.
Excuse me, miss.
You're Corey Feldman, the movie star.
Yes, and I also have a rock and roll band. Have you ever been in a limo before?
Cut to Corey Feldman kidnaps Merton, but says, hey, gotcha. I'm just running lines from your script that you sent me. It's great. I want to be in it. I don't want to produce it. So Merton is understandably excited. They go off and find Tommy and this girl, Sloane. Tommy should be with Lori, damn it. But anyway, he's cruising this girl named Sloane. They're at some bar or some peach pit. What was the one from Buffy?
Dingoes Ate My Baby played there all the time, and I'm blanking on the name.
The non-alcohol high school bar
Exactly.
that doesn't exist in the real
They're
world.
coded as bars, but they're exclusively serving high school kids.
We find out that Merton also has the hots for Sloane, even though Tommy, his best friend, is going for Sloane. But as we have seen, Merton is insanely jealous and probably will stoop to murder at some point. Murder. Corey's like, yo, so I'm really here looking for my boy Corey Haim, who came to this town and then was never heard of again. And they're like, duh, don't know. Lori, who's not Sloane and who should be with Tommy, damn it, is like, we got to stake this bitch immediately. I'm not falling for this rap again. And they're like, no, he's not a vampire, not like Haim.
When Corey Haim came to town shooting a movie, it was revealed that he was a vampire, and they ended up staking him.
Right, important backstory. So they play Truth or Dare in order to trick Feldman.
And they do it that 70s style.
It's pretty good, actually. There's a lot of really racy stuff they're talking about, but without context, they can get away with it.
It's a well-written show. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'll go to bat for Big Wolf on Campus any day. It's funny.
Okay, let's play Truth or Dare.
2. One above my ankle and one on my back.
I'm not trying to brag, but 37.
Well, I'd show it to you, but they cut it off and put it in Planet Hollywood.
And then I was like, wait a second, Miss Johnson, this is a bad idea.
Bob Barker, and to a lesser extent, Ben Affleck.
Okay, Corey, truth or dare?
Truth.
Why did you really come to Pleasantville?
Feldman admits that he's actually there because he knew Haim was a vampire. He got bit on the set of Lost Boys, and he wanted to stake him because the bloodlust had taken over. And so they're like, well, good news. We already killed him. Problem solved. And then Feldman's like, oh, great. Phew. I don't have to do it.
The fact that the Coreys were turned into vampires on the set of Lost Boys and then just kind of hand waved it away was so funny to me.
He's all happy and he says, well, I'm throwing a big party at the castle I own in Pleasantville and you guys should all come. So they go to this incredible castle party that Feldman's having. Lori is like, don't drink that drink. A, because you're a high schooler. and B, because it's blood. And then they're like, oh shit, nobody at this party has a reflection. Turns out they're all vampires, and it was all a trap. They have a great gag in here where they make fun of Feldman's actual career, because he's like, do you have any idea what it's like to be a part of a team that changes the world for generations?
They do call out Dream a Little Dream, which was a nice little Easter egg for us. And throughout, Corey Feldman's like, I also have a band. I'm also in a band.
Is he in this episode?
Yeah.
I missed all of that. I was literally watching, focused in. Does he say I have a band?
Yeah.
When did that happen? That never happened.
And I also have a rock and roll band.
Poor Corey Feldman's band. Anyway, so they escape by kicking him in the nards. He's got him. But then they get a call from Feldman. Feldman has kidnapped Sloane. So they go back to the castle. Merton is like, no, bite me instead. Corey Feldman makes them throw down all their stakes. But Merton's got a hidden groin stake. And he stakes Corey Feldman. And Corey Feldman says, your script stinks. And then dies.
And a castle full of vampires is just unleashed onto Pleasanton. No one says anything about it.
It's lousy with monsters, yeah.
This was a very slight episode, probably the slightest of all the episodes of Big Wolf on Campus we've covered. It really felt like just a victory lap of Fangsgiving Part 1 with Corey Haim.
Yeah.
Speaking of slight episodes, we have Tales from the Crypt, Cold War. So we've got Ford, played by Ewan McGregor, his partners in crime, Cammy and Cutter. It's set in London, but for some reason, Ewan McGregor has a terrible American accent.
I don't remember asking you, ass bag.
I think I know why. I have a theory. I'll tell you later. So his partners, Cammy and Cutter, who are actual Brits, are hamming up their accents to kind of sync to his level. So everyone sounds terrible.
Ain't here, because it ain't here.
They're driving around endlessly looking for a bank to rob. When they can't find it, they hit a convenience store instead. In a bit of clever foreshadowing, they find that the store is already being attacked by robbers. So Ford gets taken hostage, Cammy starts blasting her way out, and in the process they manage to get their partner, Cutter, gunned down. Back at their flat, Cammy tries to dig the bullet out of Ford's leg. They get into a fight, he shoots at her and grazes her with a bullet. She threatens to leave, but he says she'll be back, because no man would have her.
This is the part I went back to. He's like, we're two of a kind or something.
Yep.
We're the same or whatever.
Yep.
And she's like, no, humanity has changed. They're more accepting now. And I was like, oh, they're werewolves. Because we were doing Big Wolf. I was like, oh, there's a thematic connection here.
There is a thematic connection.
And I was like, come on, werewolves, come on.
Cut to a bar where Jimmy, played by British actor Colin Salmon, who was in Resident Evil, you might remember, also has a terrible American accent.
Do you see me doing the bump on the dance floor with any fine-looking booty? No, you don't.
He's in town. He's looking for some companionship. Cammy puts some Tom Jones on the jukebox, and they have an extended Pulp Fiction-style dance sequence. And I think that is the whole vibe of this episode. Ford is supposed to be a Brit-flipped version of Tim Roth in Pulp Fiction. So he's dressed the same.
Oh.
Instead of having a psycho American gangster partner, he has a psycho British gangster partner. This came out shortly after Pulp Fiction. And I think that's why Cammy and Jimmy just dance for like 10 minutes in the middle of the episode.
For no reason.
For no reason.
That was when I did tune out at that part a little bit.
Yeah. This whole thing is just a Pulp Fiction rip. Ford comes home to find Cammy and Jimmy getting out of the shower. Ford is disgusted and he shoots Jimmy. Not because Jimmy is black, but because Jimmy is human.
He was like, you let one of them touch you? Gross. And then the guy's like, you racist piece of shit. And then he's like, no, I don't give a shit what color your skin is.
Because Ford and Cammy are zombies.
Nah, not werewolves after all.
Sorry. Surprise, Jimmy is a vampire. And it turns out that vampires don't like zombies. They will have sex with zombies, but they still look down on zombies. So they brawl.
If you drink zombie blood, it gives you vampire diarrhea.
Yeah, it's awful. They brawl, the zombies get the upper hand, and then Jimmy pulls them all out of a window. Seems that Jimmy was able to turn into a bat and fly away, leaving the zombie couple all smashed up. The end.
Yeah, so I guess they're just smashed up for life now. They're not going to be healing because Jimmy is constantly like, not in the face, not in the face. It's like Death Becomes Her.
Yeah, it's a joke that pays off at the end because he gets a shotgun to the face while falling out the window. Cammy's clavicle is all busted out, sticking out of her neck. Last Fangsgiving, I brought the Tales from the Crypt episode where the vampires adopt the kid and he turns into a werewolf. This is zombies versus a vampire. It's a really bad episode. It really sucks kind of through and through. But I remember seeing this as a kid and being totally floored. A, that there were zombies and vampires in a show together. And B, that vampires looked down on zombies and they were always like had beef with each other. I thought that part was super cool.
Breaking ground.
Yeah.
Tales from the Crypt.
We could go through the trouble of grading and comparing these two episodes, but luckily for you, we're instead going to shift over to our belated Halloween wrap-up. That's right, we are clearing the decks. We are celebrating Halloween and Thanksgiving in one go so that we can focus on the winter holidays after this.
The solstice.
Halloween's over, but baby, we could live like this forever. Halloween's over.
So I've got some notes here. I would say we kicked off our Halloween season this year in September. On the 30th, we got together at your place and we all recorded our annual Spooktacular. A lot of work went into this and a lot of it was unusable because we had way too much fun.
Yeah. I suppose that's what it's really about.
Yeah, we had a really good time. You can hear it for yourself, but hours of material and topics cut for audio reasons. Our first real October event was on the 14th. We went and saw The Willows. For years, we've been hearing about this other immersive show, this must-see LA show called The Willows. It's put on by JFI Productions, and we saw Creep LA a couple of years back. But this is their long-running show about a memorial dinner to mourn the loss of Jonathan Willow. It takes place in this decaying old mansion in Los Angeles. Right away, we are ushered into this drawing room and they have self-serve spike your own cider.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, ooh, cider. And then they had a couple bottles of bourbon and rum and other stuff.
I was like, oh, this is too immersive because like you were expected to talk to not only the guests but also the actors and like have real conversations. And I'm always in like escape room, you know, who done it, like figure it out mode. And this was like a murder mystery dinner party. I was really trying to like get to the bottom of things and get the actors to tell me clues and stuff. And so anyway, I got really anxious and did a little too much spiking my cider.
And he immediately started kicking holes in the walls looking for clues and clues.
For clues. They were goading me on. They were like, oh, if you really want to know the secret, look behind these like pottery pieces that this fucking weirdo made. This guy like kept coming into the room naked and he was like the black sheep of the family. So I was like looking at all the vases. So there's no clues behind anything. There was nothing to figure out. Nothing to decipher.
I think every once in a while they spot the escape room obsessed nerd and they're like, oh, just tell him to look behind some
Just give him
furniture.
something.
Give him something to do. He's clearly uncomfortable making human conversation.
This thing was already here when we got here. It's not even a prop from the thing, but just tell him it has some significance.
We were all ushered into the dining room and sat around this huge table and everyone had to get up and give a little speech, which I thought was clever because famously one of the biggest fears people have is public speaking.
Yeah.
And what better way to terrify them than to make them stand up and give a speech to strangers?
It's true. That's a
On
good,
short
great way to
notice.
make people uncomfortable.
I, saw where this was going. They were sort of roasting everyone who stood up and trying to like trip them up and throw them off. I stood up and they're like, how do you know Jonathan? And I was like, oh, well, he's a writer and I knew him through his writing. And then someone was like, recite a poem. And somehow I zinged her. Everyone laughed. And then I used that as an excuse to sit down and like get out of it. So they went around through all the guests and all the actors. And the whole time I was watching Ryan just stewing miserably. Do you remember that part?
So I was in my cups at this point. Jeff was like number 3 or 4. They were going clockwise around the table. And there were like 13 of us at the party, not including actors. And I was number 13. So I was like, okay, I'll say that I knew him from writing because he's a writer. And then someone else said that. And then I was like, well, you said it. And then the other girl said it too. She was like, oh, we were poetry pals or whatever. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll say that I knew him from this thing. And then somebody else said that. And then I was like, okay, fuck, I'll say this third thing. And then somebody else said that. And I was like, God damn it, there's literally nothing else I can possibly say. So finally they got to me and you're supposed to say your name and how you knew the character. I was like, what's to be said that hasn't already been said? Because that's how I was feeling. And also I figured it would be a good, it was like the last thing I could possibly think to say. And then the butler goes, your name for starters. And I was like, and then everyone laughed at me.
Leslie got your ass so bad. You got burned.
And then I just quit. And I was like, I was buds. And then the girl playing the guy's wife was like, oh, were you treehouse buds? And then Jeff was like, yeah, were you treehouse buds? And I was like, and I was slowly sitting down as everyone was giving me shit, just trying to get their eyes off of me. I was like, so I'm sure my face was bright red, not just from alcohol. And I was like, yes, treehouse buds.
It cannot be overstated how miserable Ryan was at this point.
I was having fun, like, with the event, but I was also miserable and anxiety riddled and drunk because I had like 2 very highly spiked ciders and red wine at the dinner.
Then, boom, everyone jumps up. A bunch of actors start grabbing people, and they're like, this way. And that's what happens in immersive theater. They grab a couple people. Naked Guy wanted to bring me and a couple other guys up to his room. I was like, now I can use the bathroom. He's like, it's over there. And I was running away because I didn't want to slow down the show. And he shouts after me, is it number 1 or number 2? And I was so flustered. I went, number 2, which it wasn't. And I was like,
I just want to know how much time I have.
And I was like, oh no. So I went to the bathroom, washed my hands.
And forced the number 2 out of politeness.
I ran upstairs and I was like, it wasn't number 2. He was like, yes, it was. I could smell it on you. And I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, that guy was
miscalculation.
He was really giving it his all.
So he led us through this really creepy scene where he made us make puppets out of paper bags. And so he took my puppet, put it on his hand, and then pretended to be Jonathan Willow, the deceased. And he told this horrible story about how Jonathan Willow committed suicide and made Crazy Cousin a part of the act and made him complicit. It was really grisly. Where were you during all that?
I got pulled into the library with the old mother character. They had asked me some questions at dinner and I was like shouting really like flamboyant responses in an old-timey style. I was like, yeah, I'm playing my part here. I'm doing good. These are some good one-liners I'm getting out. And everyone was like, shut up. And so we got to the library and the mother character was like, you're very calm now. I like it better when you're calm. And then we played some game where we had to like repeat each other's actions. And then slowly the mother like got darker and also started talking about the suicide. Naked Guy came and was like, we got to find Jonathan's diary, but we need a key. Oh, so we found the diary and then it was like, we need a key to unlock it. And there was some clue about look under the light. So I went under a lamp and the first place I checked, I found the key, which was cool.
So there was a little escape room.
There was a little bit of an escape room.
All right. So while you were doing that, I was brought onto the porch to play games. And we played a modified game of Werewolf. It was cool because I was killing people and not getting found out. They also had wine and candy corn. And so I was like, hell yeah. So I was just getting down on candy corn and wine, brewing the biggest headache I could possibly create. And then I look outside and I see Ryan with a candle and some ladies dancing around.
Luckily, there was no more wine in any of my other scenes. Yeah, so the cousin brought a couple of us out into the yard and gave us all candles. It was just like hot wax dripping down my hands. Then she led us in like a ritual where she was like trying to summon the spirit of Jonathan back. So we had to like follow her dance movements with our candles while she recited some craziness. Then she led us down into a basement where one of our group had been tied up with a sack over her head. We did some more like chanting. The lights like were flickering and the bare bulb started swinging. I don't know how they rigged it up, but it was pretty cool. And then we ran up and I think joined the rest of the group, you guys.
We were all blindfolded and then we danced together?
We went into the dining room at one point and they were like, who will be the sacrifice? And they were trying to choose one of us. And they took that girl away. And then, yeah, they kicked us out and we don't know what happened to the girl.
This is probably as good as immersive theater gets, using only acting, setting, and like a little bit of light and sound effects. I had a really good time.
Yeah, so did I. I was dreadfully hungover the next day, though, unfortunately.
A few days later, I got to record an episode of the Killer Mediums podcast and talk about Halloween horror. And then guess what we did on the 20th? Delusion, the other interactive horror play in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. It was fun as always. Didn't feel as big or cool as years past, but we say that a lot. Maybe it's just us. It was a compilation album of all the greatest Delusion hits.
It was big on production value because they were recycling all their biggest gags from years past, but I think the story suffered because there wasn't
no good through line
to tie it all together, which made it a little more like a haunted maze and a little less like immersive theater.
Mm-hmm.
We did the VIP experience. We got to be characters. There is a zombie-filled part.
That was probably the most fun part.
Yeah, so we were hanging out in this separate guest house way in the back. We were drinking our cocktails, watching the tour groups come through, and you can see it all on some of the security cameras. And they're like, okay, now. So, you dress up in your old-timey clothes, you duck through this wardrobe, and then you're on the set. We all lay down in a pile of corpses with severed arms and legs and guts and stuff like that. There's a certain sound cue during the scene, and then we all get up and start to menace them and chase them up the stairs. That was really fun. We did it more than once. It was so much fun.
It was fun. Brought me back to those old Trails of Terror days. But we weren't allowed to chase them very far. It was like a 2 seconds of scare acting.
Some groups are more well-behaved than others. We were hanging out backstage talking to the characters and the staff.
Trading war stories. And they start getting reports over the walkie-talkies. They're like, yeah, this next group's coming in kind of hot. They're chasing people. They're throwing things. They're like grabbing props. No zombies for them. And so we just hung out and watched them come and go. And it's like, yeah, those assholes who come through on Friday night, like the later it gets, the drunker people get. That really was fun. I really hope they keep that up. And I was dreadfully hungover the next day.
A few days later, we had our 13th annual Pumpkin Palooza. We all got together and carved pumpkins. Ryan, as always, made some spiffy medallions. Not much more to say about that. It was a good time.
Yep.
Were you dreadfully hungover the next day?
No, because I was feeling sick that day, so I only had maybe 2 beers. There was a running joke this October. When we went to Delusion, I told Mark, who came with us, I'm only going to have 2 drinks, and then I'll stop. And then Jeff was like, how about a 3rd drink? And I was like, well, okay.
Look, I was driving.
And then
the least you could do was drink with me.
And then at pumpkin carving, I was like, okay, Mark, I'm only going to have 1 drink because I'm not feeling that great. And then afterwards, Jeff was like, how about a 2nd drink? And I was like, okay.
I'm a little stinker. I like to nudge. So a week later, we got to go to the Fright Dive Aquarium show. This was a live concert with Tom Kenny and the High Seas.
Our good buddy, who got us all free tickets to go and hang out in an aquarium at nighttime and pet jellyfish and sharks and rays and see some good music and some fun costumes.
It was a lifelong dream of mine to be at an aquarium with no kids, no strollers, to just see all the exhibits, see all the fish and all the animals. There were so many costumes. I decided to dress up as an anglerfish. And it was sort of a high-speed, low-drag costume. I had what my wife calls a glittery snood, just this tight-fitting little sequined black hat. I got a flexible flashlight that I had sticking out of my forehead for the anglerfish light. I had some rubber fish fins sticking out as my ears. And even though I bought a bunch of thermoplastic and dental plates and stuff to sort of mold some elaborate tooth prosthesis, none of them showed up in time, so I ended up just taping some plastic fork tines together and shoving them in my bottom lip.
Worked. Was a hit.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was very fun.
The whole thing was super cool. We were there with a bunch of our friends. Tom Kenny and his band were really good. They played a bunch of Halloween-y, monstery songs, which was much appreciated. So yeah, that was probably the highlight of the month. It was such a cool, unique experience. I still wanted to fit one more thing in, so we hit our old standby, Zombie Joe's, which I highly recommend to everyone looking for some good, clean, dirty fun in North Hollywood.
Good, clean, dirty fun.
The most surprising part to me was when that one dude came out with pants on. I was like, whoa!
What? Pants?
Of all the things they throw at you, the last thing I expected was for that one skinny dude who's always naked to have pants on. After that, we swung by Idle Hour. It was their vampire costume party.
We should always have costumes in the car, just in case.
I spotted a ghost face and a guy dressed up as Drew Barrymore from Scream. I walked over and I was like, what's your favorite scary movie? This was Chelsea and Patrick. Ryan and I ended up talking to them for hours about
for
scary
the rest
movies.
of the night.
It was so cool. Big props to Chelsea. Never took her ghost
Never
face
once took this
mask
ghost
off.
face off, yeah.
Awesome.
Also, I drank a Shirley Temple, and it made me so happy.
What's the hangover report after?
0.
All right. On the 30th, not much to report except that my awesome LED pumpkin decoration got stolen.
Ah.
Normally, this would make me very upset, but it was mischief night. The following night, the 31st, Halloween, my wife and I took our bucket of candy into the apartment complex. We were sort of a roving porch because kids never really come up on the street side. Got to hand out some candy, got to see some costumes, and called it an early night. How about you?
Yeah, I didn't do anything. It was Tuesday night?
Tuesday night. I am happy to report that this lame Tuesday night Halloween is the end of the Halloween cycle. We are going into a leap year, which means that in 2024, Halloween will be on a Thursday, and then a Friday, a Saturday, and a Sunday. So things are looking up. That's our Halloween wrap-up concluded. The decks are cleared, and now we can just sled straight forward into the winter holiday season.
Halloween's over, but baby, we could live like this forever. Halloween's over, but baby, we could live like this forever. All black in the back, mask on. I know October's long gone, and Halloween's over, but baby, we could live like this forever. Cobwebs in the chandelier never disappear, leave 'em up all year like a young Johnny Depp. Halloween is Christmas, corpse bride, mistress, black Tims, calling Burton's in a hearse when I'm swerving.
Sideburns and a flavor saver.